Miss Walker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sister Gloria. How are you? Hello.
Well, I say you want to talk to me.
No, dear. I know that, I'm trying to unmute the mic and because they're going all over the place. And I'm looking for my headphone. I know how to hear this evening. Now on this old computer here, but let me call it all the next thing, And I using the computer today. How are you going with your assignment, girl?
I can't tell you now. I reaching places and I'm doubting myself and
You still
oh my
reaching place today? I even reach on that. You know why? You know what I doing since I get up 4 o'clock this morning?
oh
T-shirt open Bible.
hey, me are doing no church work. I'm sorry. This is too much. I tell them flat no.
Doing that because remember I tell you we do the financially and so I'm trying to make
Yeah,
sure everything in order.
definitely. I tell them flat no. I cannot do no church work. This is too much for me. Look, I just tapped my hand. I just get up and tap my hand. I have to concentrate on this. Listen, these last assignments we have here not easy, you know.
Yeah, it was serious. And I
Yep.
went T-shirt, I do something whole morning, I go T-shirt, fix it to write them checks on them and then I come back and like I just can't get anything, I go under the cover actually. I come
I have
back, I
I have
start to
to say
lie down.
outside of this I have a life. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I went in the grocery. These things I cannot forget to do and I have nobody to do it for me.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
I went in the
I'm
grocery.
going to go
I
through
make,
next.
I make market and I say,
Hey,
Lord, I'm
today's
not.
how you make market today? By the
I
roundabout?
Yeah, I just make
Oh,
market if I. You see, once I out Daphne, you see
they
the
do
out.
everything and done.
I'm telling you. And then with everything that is happening with Cherise, I had to help.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So
She
I
be
get up.
feeling,
Huh?
she improve?
Well, she came out, went for her today. Aaron went up because I said
I'm glad. That's nice.
she come out, but she had to go back to her specialist in the morning. It's a rolling put thing now, no. If she come out, she just lie down home and relax.
Better. Since you had
So
to be
now,
on the road up and down now.
yeah, tomorrow we back on the road, and I believe it's me and Rani gonna be doing that. We back on the road with her to go to our specialist, right, to see what is wrong with her eye. It's a pain in her eye that's causing that headache, you know. It's her eye causing that. It look as though all this thing from all them tests and they find nothing is one eye is the eye causing that.
They put
Her
it on
eye.
that.
Yeah, so we have to hit the road again tomorrow. What the
She
doctors?
doesn't wear glasses. She doesn't wear glasses.
No, she don't wear glasses. What the doctors couldn't do. You think it end there? And the thing about it, the study saying that they're treating this thing very passive because they're saying, well, she'll do the, may know when she could do the exam because she have to take to do it.
Yeah, and it's online.
It's her eye she have to take to read, it's her eye she have to take to this, to
And
do the paper.
not only that, the concern what at this kind of light on the screen that would be good
Yeah,
for her, and then she had to
yeah,
concentrate on the head. All this that would be good.
you see, if let me say what she put she break, she could sit down and read and
Yeah,
write.
yeah.
If for something happened to she left hand, if for some,
Uh-huh.
you know, but
Right, but the
look at the
eye,
place,
that way you're using to do everything.
look at
And
the
this
place.
this light from this computer killing we who I good much as for who I am.
I'm telling you, I have to time. I would wonder the only for a couple times.
You know, I keep forgetting to, I'm going to get my one that will leave. I keep forgetting to get it. I'm going to get it before 6
And
o'clock.
let me tell you something. It has some days it's extremely hot.
Yeah,
So, and some nights extremely hot. I don't sleep
yeah.
with AC all night, but it's hot. And so you
Mm-hmm.
have to sleep with that one that you will leave on your head. That is what
I'm going to now. Gloria, I come in before I get, well, it's almost, they said don't pick thing after 6.
yeah, you better go for it, right?
I'm
Come
going to
on,
go for it now. I'm going. I forget.
Hi, afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm doing preschool prayer today.
good evening.
Hi, Sister Chandra. Sister Melissa, could raise a song for us, please. Thanks.
Huh?
Could you raise a song for us? Thanks.
Okay, I was now singing. This song just now come to mind, came to mind. Hallelujah. I worship you, oh my God. There is none like I worship you, you precious Jesus. That is all I want to do.
Come before you, O God, with open hearts, O God. I pray, Father, that you will, O God, minister in a special way to each one of us, O God, both to the lecturer and to us as students, O God, even as we interact, O God, during this session, during this lecture, during this class, O God. I pray that you will give us understanding, O God. I pray, God, that you will continue to open our minds, oh God, as we would learn from our tutor, oh God, that whatever he has to impart to us, oh God, that it will stay within us, that we would make it effective in our lives, oh God, Father. We give you praise, we give you thanks, oh God. Continue to have your will and your way during this class, oh God. We give you praise in Jesus' mighty name with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. You hear me all?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Good. So this is our last lecture session, is it?
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be. All right. Yes, I think it is. At least that's what Sister Alexander told me. All right. So we want to do our 5-minute recap. So somebody lead us in our recap.
Come on, Sister Wendy.
As usual.
Okay. I'm just trying to get something here. Right. So you're hearing me, right?
Yep.
Good. So last week we dealt with organizational culture, and the term became popular in the 1980s according to Dale and Kennedy. It is a framework with which to understand behavior in organizations. Talking about culture, there's probably no more comprehensive word in the English language than the word culture. Simply put, it's the way we do business here or the way we do things here. Culture is the super glue which binds people together and give them a sense of identity and continuity, which is almost impenetrable. And this identity is seen most obviously in the way things are done, as I said before, how well or how badly, and how employees feel about their work and organization will be reflected in their behavior. So all of this constitutes organizational culture. In a nutshell, it is the accumulated store of symbols, ideas, and material products which influence the way associates or employees think, feel, and act towards others inside and outside the organization. The surface manifestations, which are like the material culture of the organization, include artifacts, artistic creations, ceremonials, courses, jokes, language, drills, heroes, and so on, legends, the way people speak, the slogans they use, the rights of the organization, the symbols, and so on. And then there's a non-material culture, which would include the values, the ideas, and the beliefs. That means the unspoken things that are not visible, but are reflected in the behaviors of the associates. So our behavior reflects the values we hold. For example, if we value punctuality, we will arrive early to work. If we don't value punctuality, we will arrive to work late. If we respect the property of others, we will not take things that don't belong to us without asking. In organizations, values determine how work should be done and situations dealt with. And it is the leadership who would have formulated the core values, for example, citizenship, customer service, honesty, integrity, respect, and so on, teamwork, accountability. And it is the leadership that would act as the carrier of the culture to ensure that there is continuity. Where does organizational value culture come from? Worldview is at the heart of culture. One's own worldview provokes a system of beliefs which are reflected in the top management's behavior. The best way to do things in the organization. What is the best way? Top management would then teach this to the associates who imbibe them, and they become part of their psyche. Quality, stability, morality, these are some of the values, profitability, innovations. The organizational socialization is a process. It doesn't take place overnight. It's a process whereby an associate's pattern of behavior, values, attitudes, and motives is influenced to conform to that of the organization. If the culture of the organization is to endure, and if newcomers are to survive and prosper in an organization, new recruits have to be taught to see the organization world as their more experienced colleagues do. In other words, what is expected of you, how should you do things, and if you don't, then you will find yourself the odd person out. You'll become frustrated. You will think everybody is against you. So you really have to conform. In this process of organizational socialization, it is a symbiotic relationship, which means that you depend on each other for survival. Each gain from the other. I have here 6 things. Let me see what page I'm on here. So there are 6, where is it here? 6 aspects. I don't know if I'm using the correct word. Organizational socialization, there are 6 things that normally take place. The employees or the associates would adopt the organization's goals and values, knowledge of what constitutes performance proficiency, build satisfying relationships with the people of the organization, become occurrent with the language used in the organization, be aware of the power structures and work relationships within the organization, learn the history of the organization, such as the traditions, the customs, and the rituals and the myths and so on. An organization can either have a weak culture or a strong culture. In an organization that has a weak culture, there's little agreement among the associates about their organization's core values, the way things are supposed to be, or what is expected of them. In an organization that has a strong culture, the organization's core values are widely shared among associates. It is the values are jealously guarded, and the values guide the behavior of the associates. There are advantages of a strong culture and disadvantages. So if we look at the advantages, the opposite would be the disadvantages. So I wouldn't go into the disadvantages because it's very simple. So the advantages would be like it differentiates the organization from others. It is symbiotic in nature. Both associates and organization benefit from each other. Facilitates associates behaving in ways desired by management. It creates stability within the organization. And just one disadvantage with that one, it makes adapting to a changing environment more difficult. National culture, how values in the workplace are influenced by culture. Professor Gert Hofstede defines culture as the collective programming of the mind, distinguishing the members of one group or category of people from others. He and his research team came up with a 6-dimensional model of national culture. Since countries are unique, one cannot conclude that one's culture is better or superior than another, but what we can do is compare both and try to understand why it is so. So the 6 dimensions are the power distance index, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance index, xenophobia, long-term orientation versus short-term normative orientation, indulgence versus restraint. So in the PDI, the degree to which a society handles inequalities among people, societies in which people accept a hierarchical order as fair, they exhibit a high degree of power distance. So I think you were talking about the churches, the Open Bible churches, and the research that was done. Urban behavior of the people in the urban area versus in the rural, where people strive to equalize the distribution of power and demand why inequalities exist, they show a low PDI, which is the power distance index. The IDV, how is self-image determined? Is it I or we? Is it each man for himself or loyalty to the group? The masculinity versus femininity. And when I looked at the MAS, I am wondering, where is the F? Where is the femininity? And this is MAS for masculinity. So why is it MAS and not MAF or something? Anyhow.
But that's, no.
Right.
We can change it to MAF.
Yeah, there's no F in it.
Yeah.
All the others have a, the other letter.
Yeah. But that's how it's termed. But however, we could change that.
Yes. No, I'm not changing what is this is whoever's work it is good. Is it Professor Good? I didn't do any research to go and change a person's work. What is more important, acceptable belief, the norm? Is it achievement or heroism? Assertiveness, material rewards for success? Well, these are all masculine. Because society is so competitive, continuous striving for these yardstick to measure masculinity, that is a continuous thing. It's never ending. Femininity, preference for cooperation, modesty, caring for the weak, and equality of life, which is more matrifocal in focus. So we must find some kind of middle ground or consensus. So we could start by saying MAF. UAI. UAI is what again? Uncertainty Avoidance Index. The degree to which the members of a society feel uncomfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. That is how the people deal with the fact that the future can never be known. So, do they say que sera, or try to control the future? And if they want to try to control the future, how will they do that? So technology is one way which assists with the uncertainty done by nature with new developments. I don't know if I could use COVID as an example here because it was not foreseen. And like right now we're using technology to overcome whatever it is. We can't meet face to face. The law, people know what they're supposed to do, but the law defends the uncertainty of behavior by the people with rules that are set. So there are rules to abide by, yet people break the rules. So we have the law there and the lawyers defend whatever. Religion accepts the uncertainty of people. Accepts that the uncertainty of people cannot get, no, accepts the uncertainty people cannot get protected from. So individuals use their beliefs to get through their uncertainties. So we go now to the strong UAI countries maintain rigid codes of belief and behavior, such as the United Arab Emirates, Syria, China, North Korea, Russia. And the weak UAI countries more relaxed. The practice counts more than principles. Well, Trinidad and Tobago is right there. USA. And then xenophobia, which is a fear or hatred of that which is perceived to be foreign or strange, to the extent that there's a desire to eliminate their presence. The fear of losing national, ethnic, or racial identity. I don't know how we will call what is happening in Jamaica, what happens in Jamaica where they have this thing against homosexuals and they'll hunt them down and even kill them. I don't know if that could be called or termed xenophobia.
The better one to use is the example in the United States.
Okay.
With the president.
All right, okay.
Okay, with
right.
his view
Mexican?
On the African American people.
What about the Mexicans?
The Mexicans, yeah, also, that's correct.
Right. So what is the IVR now? IVR, indulgent, is it societies that have, no, in something versus restraint. Indulgence was right. Indulgent societies versus those that are restrained societies. So in the indulgent societies, as the word suggests, you enjoy life, you have fun, happy-go-lucky, don't worry, be happy, fet after fet, river line. The restrained society, gratification of needs are suppressed and regulated by strict social norms. So there are certain characteristics of indulgent societies and restrained societies. In indulgent societies, people feel healthier and happier. The reverse for restrained societies. In indulgent societies, there's control over your life. You control things. No control over your own life in restrained society. Leisure ethic, you know, don't worry, be happy. Everything is aligned. In indulgent societies. Restrained societies, work ethic very strong. So it's work, work, work. If you don't work, you don't eat. Indulgent societies, optimism, a positive attitude, restrained, pessimism, cynicism. Indulgent societies, more extroverted personalities. Well, of course, Carnival is a good example of that. Restrained societies, more introverted personalities. Indulgent societies, having friends a high priority. Restrained societies, having friends not a priority. Indulgent societies, active participation in sports. The reverse for restrained societies. In indulgent societies, less moral discipline. And restrained societies, stricter moral discipline. Indulgent societies, looser sexual mores. And restrained societies, stricter sexual mores. I think, is that the end? Yes, and there were some questions to consider.
Yes. All right, thank you very much, Sister Matura. Anybody has any question for Sister Matura?
I'll pass you on to the pastor. I'll refer you to the pastor.
All right, so these are, if you note, these are the last set Sister Matura spoke about is the national culture. These are what countries are characterized by, how you can measure them. All right, and I give you the example of the power distance, and everyone has an index that you can measure masculinity, femininity, and so on. All right. When you look at the last examples, the indulgent societies and the restrained societies, they are reflective of a free society, which, like Trinidad and Tobago, is a free society, and also the USA. But when you look at the restrained societies, you actually could see the expression on people's face. All right, for example, Russia, Cuba. When you look at those people, you see a different expression on their face. Anybody has traveled to those countries in the East? Anybody?
I went to Cuba.
Right. So
I
you
went to Cuba 20 years ago.
Right. What is your view of the people in Cuba? We're talking about in terms of these characteristics as compared to Trinidadian.
Okay, so you really don't see them smile. Remember that was the time of the Castro, right? So they were not really smiling. They were very serious people. They were, I don't know if they use the word proud, but they would not beg or anything. You never saw people like in the square sitting or anything like in Trinidad, how you would see them in the square or on Brian Promenade. There was nobody like that. But they were, I can't say they were friendly because they would hardly speak to strangers except the tour guide and when we went wherever, right? But very serious people. Well, there was nothing to smile about, I imagine, under those conditions. And as I said, they would not speak much because, you know, it's like you can't speak to foreigners, right? You can't let them know what is really happening in your country. What else? We tried to visit a home but we had to do it very surreptitiously. We couldn't do it openly, so it was like at night to see if we could speak to some of the people there, the natives there, but it didn't really open up. They were living in really squalid conditions, you know. They don't beg. We didn't see any beggars there, right? And everybody was always in motion. There was no sitting around anyway. You know, I saw like 20th century together with what you call that, must be 16th century. So they had the horse and the buggy, because remember they don't have oil. So cars and so on, you don't have the amount of that kind of transport on the road. They have these camel buses and they use bicycles. And as I said, the horse, the buggies and bicycles and those things. So that was very strange to me. But as I said, the expression on the faces, it was serious. And you could see the enduring hardship.
Right.
And I really didn't see no set you know, like we didn't hear music or anything like that. There was no sign of any entertainment. Except, well, I mean, in the hotel, sometimes they'd have a band at dinner time or so.
Okay, so this is a live example of your observation of an indulgent versus a restrained society. So this is was brought about on these people because of the communistic system, where the people are placed under, well, for them it will be oppression, but for the government it will be a system of governance. People in communist country don't own anything; they are not free. So these examples here: stricter moral discipline, less sports participation, having friends less important. This is what they were compelled to live this kind of life. Whereas in the free societies at USA, England, some of the European countries, the early West Indian country, we are indulgent societies. So these are the characteristics whereby you can identify a country, a nation. That's why you call it the national socialization culture. So if you compare in countries, these are the dimensions, these are the characteristics that by which you would compare them, and that goes for any country. All right. So when you're preaching and stuff, you could you could use these, and you might have to do a little explanation to the people so they will understand, and so it's important to know these facts. Also, when you look at the 7 churches in Asia, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and so on, you'll see there's a difference. And some of these characteristics you can, when you read it again in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3, you could apply some of these same characteristics and see how you would describe them. If you were to describe them in a modern sense, from today's point of view, how would you describe them using these cultural characteristics as the case may be? All right, so also organizational socialization. We just talk about the goals and the values, people, politics, performance, proficiency, language, and history. We can apply this to the church. I could ask a question: how can you describe your church's organization in respect of organizational socialization? So if you were to use 2 examples, how would you describe it from the perspective of your church? Anybody? Just take 2. You remember the organization, socialization, goals and values, people, politics, performance, not history, language, history. For example, the people in your church, do you have a good relationship with the members and the members in the church itself and the organization? I spoke about the measurement of the church health. So and we saw that most of the member churches, they really didn't have healthy relationships. It fall under like 37% out of 100. How does this compare in your church in terms of organizational socialization? How would you describe the organizational socialization in terms of its people in your church? Anybody?
Pastor, good evening.
Yes, Sister Sudhir.
In point 14, I observed that they try certain things to socialize, like you might have family-based sports day, you might have Christmas dinner, but this is just getting the people together and enjoying themselves together and observing each other and so on, and lessening the distance between them. But and you might have little thing like sport, well, family day with involving sporting little activities, little competition, and where any age group would go into the competition, and that's what a bonding will take place. But I think that there is more need for more structures, and so on for people, because the culture needs to pass on the, for transformation and continuity to take place, and it is from the elderly to the younger ones. Otherwise, they will just live according to their emotions and feelings and be easily persuaded to negative things. And if they know the positive things and values that kept the society in past times, and they learn to hold on to it and realize that it's not only their home, but in the church it's taking place too, they will realize that, yes, it's not only accept that, oh, mommy and daddy told me to do this, but here the church is saying the same thing. So there is some truth in it and there is some good in it. Because like in American society, it's so easy for people to abandon the home values and go out in the group. And even in very rich people lifestyle, they don't have some values to hold on to. So they just go and explode after they get so much money, and you will be surprised to see what they do behind doors. So
when they have people have values and they can hold on to this and they can make right choices, well then the societies continue to grow positively. This is my contribution, and the best way is to pass it on from one generation to the next. Not only the inheritance like money and cars and other food and station and position, but the values will keep the society, the younger ones,
Okay,
even to
so
know how to handle situations that confront them, how to face challenges, how to make proper decisions, and so on. Thank you.
okay, good. So how, if you were to describe the relationship with organization members in the church from an organizational socialization perspective on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, well, how would you score the relationship?
Well, Pastor, I don't want to score it too hard, because the leaders, they are sometimes scared to approach the youth, and sometimes the youth scared of the leaders.
All right. So how,
To
what
ask
score?
questions.
Just
So
a score.
I would say
a
halfway,
number.
half five, because
Right.
that barrier have to be broken down. When the elderly could be like, a little childish, some of the childish experiments, don't put that wall of division. The younger ones will feel, yes, they have the similar experience. They're sharing experiences together, and when they share and receive joy, the age barrier, and it will, be a wall. Because sometimes people fear, because sometimes in situations, if you are only correcting people all the time, even though they make mistakes, not all the time you can correct them, because they will they will begin to feel low self-esteem. Well, wait now, I have nothing to me that every time it's correction. So, so you have to know how to handle them, how to discipline. Yeah, everything should be done with love, and you must be able to empathize and sympathize and hold a hand and cross over, because it apparently some elderly people don't want to let them know that they had battles in their life and they had to cross over too. So you have to now hold their hand and encourage them and help them to cross over.
Okay.
Them that you are supporting them and helping them, and that is what they will cherish about you.
Okay. Well, that would be the strategy to improve the relationship.
To break down walls.
But all I wanted was how would you describe the characteristic, and you say 5. So it means that there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
and some of those strategies that you explained there, those are some of the things that you need to put in place to implement, to improve
Pastor, evening.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I think if I had to rate our church, I would give it a 5 as well. But I think I would give it a 5 simply because we don't have enough things that are intentional to really encourage socialization among people. So when people enter our church family, as it were, we depend on sort of informal relationships and informal bonds to really get people socialized. So I don't think there is anything that's really intentional. So there isn't a proper program in place to couple with that to make sure that we actually socialize people and socialize them the right way. So I don't know if that's the angle you're looking at.
Right, yes. Well, these are what I'm saying, that these are tools that you need to have, which you are being provided with. So in your area of concern, some of you, I keep saying that some of you will become leaders, some of you already are leaders, some of you would be pastors, and different portfolios you may hold. So all these are things that you can use to observe and to see what kind of system you have, what what organizational socialization, how is it functioning in your area of concern. And these are some of the things that you could look at to improve on it: goals and values, people, politics, performance, proficiency, language, history, etc. And then you could look at the National Socialization Index. You could even apply to your church power index dimensions and so on. Always on national, you could also look at the masculinity, femininity. Create your own indexes, do surveys, and see what results you get. And then you'll be able to make an informed decision as to what is taking place in your organization. All right, understand? So these are things that you have to apply to your situations. So if you're telling me that you have 50%, the relationship is like 50% on an index, on a scale, then there's work to do. It needs to improve. And now what strategies are you going to apply to improve the relationship among your people? Right? Yeah.
Can I say something? Well, as people know, I'm a new person, fairly new, just under a year. You just heard one person. I belong to the same church as Ms. Ramdale, and Gloria Thomas. Joseph also belongs to the same church. I think Sister Mary as well. I don't know that we will agree with the 5 out of 10. From what I have seen, I wouldn't give a 5. I will give a higher grade. I will give about an 8, because some of the activities I have seen, right? There is bonding, there is good relationship. I have seen the youths, what they do, right? I have seen the elders, intercessory teams, and so on, and the relationship they have with the pastor. I haven't seen that anywhere else. I think there are many activities throughout the year to ensure that people are socialized, they feel comfortable. You know, I think the pastor goes out of his way. I shouldn't say out of his way. I mean, he does more than, you know, an ordinary pastor will do to bond with his flock, even amidst, you know, circumstances that are difficult circumstances. So I am, and he cares for people. He treats people well. He is very concerned about people, and he has a good relationship from what I have seen with all the groups.
Okay. This is not an assessment of the pastor, you know, or the leader.
Yeah, but what I am saying is that based on the activities, right, that are organized by the church to socialize and to get people and the bonding and all of that, I would not give a 5.
Right. Well, the question is how would you describe the church's organization socialization in terms of relationship with organizational members? How would you describe it? So that's the question. We are not questioning the pastor and what he does and what strategy he uses, and you know, he has socialization programs and so on, but we're talking about the outcome. How is it now? If you were to analyze it now, how would we describe it now? What exists? And that's what I'm looking for. Also, we are here. We say 5, and there are others. But when you're doing a survey, you don't take 1 or 2 people. You take a cross section of the population, and you do the questionnaire, and then you analyze the respondents. So out of the amount of people, you might take a sample of what, 40%, 30% of the people in the church. You wouldn't get everybody, but let's say you take 30% of the cross section of the membership of the church, inclusive of the pastor. You will get a response. The same way you score it from 1 being lowest, 10 being the highest. You look at what response, what score the respondents give, and you do a statistics. You take a mean of all, and that will be your mean score, your average score. So you know, just like when you're judging, you look at the high and the low and so on. So you take an average of all the scores, divide by the number of respondents, or the sample of the population, and you get a mean score for the relationship, and that's how it's done. So where you have a 5, if it's 2 people, you have a 8, you have a 5, and then you have a 8. So 8 and 5, 13, divide by 2, 6.5. You understand? So that's how you do these statistics. This is how you analyze. So if you have now 40 people, you'll get a different response. It will not be based on 2, based on 40 people. It may be lower or it may be higher based on the response that they give. All right, so these are how surveys are done, and these are how you come up with statistical relationships, and you can, it gives information that you can make decisions on. All right, it's not an indictment of anybody. It's not to make judgment, but it's to improve the relationship, and to improve the system where necessary. All right, everybody understand? Yes.
Yeah, Pastor, I get it.
Okay, great.
Yes, yes, Pastor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we're looking at, in our outline, leadership in a postmodern era, and then leadership accountability and finishing well. So today class is a discussion class, eh? So this is our last class. So what is postmodern leadership? Post comes after modern. Sister Amina, I sent the notes. Did you get it?
Pastor, I actually just checked my email and saw it. I'm forwarding it now.
All right, good. But you wouldn't have time to read this now, but I want to draw your attention to a couple pages.
I will try to share it now.
Right, okay, good. You could share it on the screen. Right, so what is postmodern leadership? Post comes after modern, after bureaucracy, after hierarchy, and after the industrial era. Some of us may know about the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution took off in the late 18th century, initiated by Samuel Slater. This marked the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, which began in England and was brought to America. The change was brought about when businessmen harnessed the power of rivers and streams to mechanize the textile industry. It caused the move from an agrarian society to an urban industrial society. So this is saying that the Industrial Revolution was brought about by the introduction of machines. So where you would weave cotton into cloth by hand, all right, it's now became mechanized because the discovery of power driven by water and steam was discovered. So now they were able to make machines that would weave cotton into cloth. So that started in England. So it caused the move from an agrarian society, agrarian meaning agricultural, to an urban industrial society. So this brought about a change in the work ethics of people and also in the culture of people. So the areas where you could have generated power, that's where they would place these mechanisms and to create power to bring about the harnessing on the manufacturing of cloth, and they were placed strategically along the river in the urban societies. Why? Because the market that's where the market is, in the urban societies. In the countryside, the population is sparsely populated. All right, but in the urban societies, densely populated, where you have a market, a ready market available. So that brought about a change. So that's why you have a lot of people rushing to live and work in the urban areas of any country, and still exists so today, right? So the postmodern organization may be defined as that comprising a network set, diverse, self-managed, self-controlled teams with polycenters, many centers of coordination that fold and unfold according to the requirements of the task. Likewise, these teams are organized in flat design structures. Employees are highly empowered and involved in the job. Information is fluid and continuous improvement is emphasized throughout. This was taken by Boje and Denetti in 2000 in their book. Right, so what I'm saying, there is a change in the, of course, it will also bring about a change in the leadership styles of the people. So as a result of the contingency plan, the environmental theories and so on, you will see it operating there where the type of leadership, the style of leadership in the agrarian society or before the Industrial Revolution took place, you will see the leadership styles being changing in the post-modern era. All right, so that's what we're looking at when we talk about leadership in the postmodern era, what it was before and what it is after, right? In an age of escalating uncertainty, the idea that leadership means being in charge of a group is obsolete. So a lot of things that you would have learned, that you know, you would have to have an open perspective on these. And I keep saying that there's no one way or one style of leader. You will have to look at the situation in which you are the person in charge and determine what is the style best suited or to be adopted to manage the affairs of the group that you lead. In the past, leadership was a top-down approach. Do as I say, and that's it. But we have to have a different perspective now in terms of what we have learned concerning leadership. And we have learned that leadership is not really a top-down approach, but it is based, it's not based on power, and all these are noted in the notes later on. It's not based on power. It was based on power in the past, but today it is based on influence. All right? It is based on influence. So rapid change and innovation require a less static hierarchical concept of leadership. Wherever success depends on the diversity of idea, leadership becomes fragmented into discrete impacts, no longer an ongoing role. So everybody has an idea, and it's really something that we have to consider, that is not only what we want, and it's not only based on the ideas of others, but if the leader doesn't have a vision, everybody will have an idea. So you as a leader, you must have a vision as to be able to share your vision and to lead the people based on influence as to where you would want to go and the outcome that you would want to obtain. All right. Sister Mina, can you show up the slide, the page on page 8? A lot of reading that you could read. But before we go for the break, these are some of the things that, and there's some preamble to the postmodern era that you can read up. And these are some of the principles of management that exist in the modern times and what it ought to be in postmodern times. So for example, you would see, and these are the characteristics of a leader, all right, which is to plan, to organize, to influence, to lead, and to control, all right? When I did management, first of all, at UWI, the first thing I was taught was a manager responsible for PLOC, plan, lead, organize, control. That's all four factors that you have to be governed by. The
Yeah,
plan, yeah, go ahead.
no, Pastor, sorry, I was just saying, yeah, that's correct.
Right, good. You did that management course too.
Yeah. I think from sixth form,
Okay,
as a matter of fact, maybe even earlier. That's the first thing you will do. Yeah.
yeah, that's right, right? So that's what you'll get, plan, lead, organize, control. But it has grown into different dimension, and you could even add more to this. Some people have added motivation to this also, all right? But I believe that could fall on as a subset to influencing. So these are the factors that we look at, which will be planning, organizing, influencing, leading, and controlling, right? So these are the factors that a leader ought to be functioning by. So under planning, you have modern short-term profit goals, and the postmodern, for the modern leader, he or she would look at long-term profit goals. So you look at also in the modern term, mass production. In the postmodern is flexible production. Amina, explain that to me. Talk to the class, sorry.
Pastor, so for example, if you have, let's say you have a garment factory, and your garment factory is located in Trinidad and Tobago, but your garment factory, your specialty is t-shirts. The modern thought would be to produce as much t-shirts as you possibly could. But in the postmodern thought, it would be changing as styles change. So for example, if t-shirts go out of style and let's say vests or tunics or long sleeves or short sleeves come into style, you are prepared to move away from t-shirts. You may not leave your base, right? You may not leave your base, but you are flexible. The organization is flexible enough to cater for the way the market is moving. So if the market prefers armless vests, then you would switch to making that. So it's no longer about making as much as you possibly could, but making what would be in demand at the moment.
Right, good. Very good, very good. Thank you, market. So this is based on market forces or market demand. So your production will be, flexible production will be based on what the market wants. The style may change, so therefore the production will be based on the style. Also, the flexible production will be based on numbers. In the past, mass production, you turn out like 100 units per day. This may vary also. You have systems in place where it can increase or whatever amount you need to put out, to output, you can make the adjustments as the case may be. All right, thank you. All right, then worker is a cost. In the modern era, worker is a cost. That's why they shut down Petrotrin. They said the workers was getting too much money. No comments on that?
No, I want to laugh at that, but oh my God! People say I want my EAP is still in functioning because we haven't come to terms with that closure as yet.
Exactly. All right, and that is so not true. A lot of tales were told about cleaners, what cleaners getting, which is not true. Yes, a cleaner would have gotten more than what a domestic worker would get because you are in an industrial setting. You are facing chemicals that may affect you. So the salary is based on a number of factors in the industry because there is an element of risk that has to be included. People who work offshore got flexibility allowance because there's an element of risk. So a person who is a mechanic on land working in an offshore environment will get more money, more pay because of the element of risk. So these are some of the factors that that salaries were based on. All right, so it's not all true that you were told. I'm not talking politics here. I'm talking about somebody who worked in the company for 30-something years in a very high position, set salaries, knew everybody's salary, know what they did, and did assessments of everybody, and also, put things in place as the case may be. So this is nothing to do with politics. This is what I am talking about, a position of knowledge. So people's salary, people will look at as a cost to the organization. In the postmodern era.
So, excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to check on something. I know that you are passionate about Petrotrim because over time I would hear you talk about it. What exactly caused the downfall of Petrotrim?
That I will not be able to say in this class.
Because what I don't understand, and hear me well, I just say if potato is potato, potato is potato. I think I'm probably too outspoken.
Yeah.
If every single year you are in deficit, so then how could they? What is the term? They have this money that they don't normally share out to the workers. If every year it is in a deficit, then something and adding up, then it's management is the problem.
Well, that's something we need to talk about. If I were in class, I would have been able to explain to you all. Now this is being recorded. I will not be able to see.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, I see. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good. All right. So the postmodern era see an employee as an investment, not as a cost. All right. So that's the difference with the modern era and the postmodern era. And these are things that's still happening. Some people still, some employers, some owners of organization, leaders still see workers as a cost to the organization. And when things happen, there's a downturn in the economy, the first thing they look to do is lay off workers because they see the workers as a cost and not as an investment. In the Church of Jesus Christ, we ought to see people as an investment in the church, as a resource to the church. And that's how we have to look at people. All right. And without people in any organization is a white elephant. No matter what, it will be a white. We are not saying that you are not to be wise to look at count the cost. Jesus said before you build a house, check the cost and look at the sand and so on. So you have to look at who you need in the organization. So that's where your organization structure, all the principles of leadership come in there. You look at your vision, your mission, and you determine what organization structure you would need, and your organization structure will determine the people who you would need in the organization, right? In any organization, you have organization need, people need, and task needs. Those are the three needs in an organization. Organization, what the organization needs to function. People needs, task needs, sorry, what task you need to perform so that you can meet the objectives of the organization, and the people, what are the people needs in the organization. So those are things you have to look at, and you just cannot say that the organization is top heavy. You'd have too much employees. These are some of these strategies that you ought to apply in order to maximize profitability, and also to know, who you need in the organization to meet that objective. Okay.
Pastor, a quick question there, just
Yes.
before we go off. So in terms of the Open Bible Standard churches, so for me, every leader's vision would kind of be different. Does that mean that every church's org structure is different, or is that informed by the org structure of the overall organization, the overarching structure?
Yeah, based on the constitution and bylaws, every church is structured the same way. Every church. The only difference you can change the structure or add to the structure in terms of teams or cell groups. If you have cell groups in your church,
Okay.
you can have include that in the structure. We did team a couple of weeks ago. All right, so you can add that, but the basic structure remain the same.
Okay.
All right.
Understood. Yeah.
Good. Right. All right. So then you have vertical planning, and then you have horizontal planning, internal and top-down focus, internal and external customer focus, and then you have planning leads to order, and the postmodern planning leads to disorder and confusion. All right. So, so these are the differences in the modern era and the postmodern era. All right. So we can take a break and then we continue in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Pastor. Thank you.
Okay.